Hi, my name is Kaylin, and I read the story The Bet by Anton Chekhov. A little bit about him is that he's a Russian author from Moscow. Um, he produced, he wrote about 10 plays. He's also an author. He was born January 7th, 1960, and he died in 1904 of allegedly drinking champagne for the first time. Um, what he was after his last play before he died, the play The Cherry Orchard, he um, was considered the greatest dramatist in all of literary history. Um, so the play that I read was called The Bet, and it was about Uh, so it was about a bet between a prisoner and a banker, or before he becomes a prisoner, a person and the banker, and they start talking about life sentence and how they don't agree with the death penalty, or which one is worse. Like, if is a life sentence worse or the death by execution worse. So the banker puts him up to a bet and says that well, I bet you can't stay in jail for 15 years. And if by that, I'll give you $2 million if you get out, if you think life is worse than the death penalty. Soon to be prisoner said, okay, I will take you up on that bet. And then, so he had a set of rules that he had to follow. So he was only allowed to have books, certain kinds of foods, like what he can books that can come in and go out, writing utensils and things like that. And if he wanted something, he had to write a letter out to the outside world and get it, and they would bring it back to him. So, um, the first night that he was in jail, he could do nothing but just stand like be still in his cell, and he didn't really move much. Like, he was like content with being there. And after a couple years of being there, he had learned 60 some different languages and linguistics in different forms. And he wrote a letter out to the banker. It was like, well, he wanted to prove that he was successful in learning these languages. So he wrote a letter out in 6 different languages just to make sure that he was successful in it. No, 7 years went by, and he kept reading more and more books about the world and things like that. Um, and then he eventually just started writing every single day, and just writing out letters in his diary. And then towards the last 2 years of his sentence, he used to be more still. Like, he didn't move that often as much, and the prisoner felt content. So it was the night before he was supposed to be released from jail to claim his $2 million. It was that if you did it's like if you would like say truce before the 15 years was up, you would not get the 2 million. Or so the night before, the banker comes in. And because he owed the 15 years, he's been losing his money in the stock market, and he doesn't have any money left, basically. And he's kind of on the urge of bankruptcy, and he loses his money there. So he tries to sabotage the prisoner's way out 5 hours later. So he goes into the jail cell because he realized that all the guards are asleep, they're gone, they went home. So he unlocks the door and goes into the jail cell, and he sees an old man. Not even that, because like the banker is 60 years old. He's old, but like the prisoner in there, he's only about 45, and he's like gray hair, crooked back, skinny bones. He's barely moving. He's trained himself not to move, and he goes up to him and places his hand on his shoulder, and sees to slay him, to like kill him. And sees that the letter that he has written on his desk, and it says that he has seen many worlds, has heard many languages through the books that he has read, and he figures himself to be the wisest that he has ever felt in his life because he's read so much and he's, learned so much from these books that he's read. And he formally called off the truce from it. He called it off because he felt like his wisdom was enough in those 15 years of being in prison from reading books and learning about life and things like that. So he called it off, and then the banker puts the note back on the desk, and the next morning, he announces that he walks out before his time is allotted up, and that is the end of the story. So another story by Anton Chekhov that we read in class was The Neighbors, and when I first read that story, uh, I I thought it was, I absolutely knew who wrote it. Like the nature of Chekhov's stories are just so mysterious until the end, until you finally get to the point at the end. I'm a theater major as well, so I know about the Cherry Orchard and I know about the Seagull. We did a lot of script analysis about those two plays, and we do a lot of scene study work for those plays, and we know about we start acting, the core of acting from those plays. So I knew the nature of how he wrote things. So when I read The Neighbors, compared to this story, I think it's a good story to read. Like a lot of it is driven towards like the dialogue tells the story, like not so much of the actions do, because the dialogue causes the tension between the characters in that story, especially in The Neighbors, between the brother and the sister who runs off with this 50-year-old man somewhere, and he's mad about it and his mother's all bitter about it. That makes you think a lot. Like a lot of his stories make me think about a lot of things and emotion. Like I'm really emotional, so I think a lot about things that make me, that bother me, and he writes them out. And so I think that'd be a good. Those two stories are good connecting each other, almost. Overall, the bet was not a bad story. I really could have wished for a better ending to the story. It wasn't that suspenseful or anything. I was thinking like he was going to slit his throat once he walked out the jail cell, but nothing like that happened. It was just he learned wisdom and he learned the way of the world and he knew about all the philosophies and the religion